It's well and truly spooky season now, and we are getting closer and closer to Halloween. So I thought, why not make a video about 31 films to watch in the 31 days of October?
Now a warning, guys, some of these movies will truly disturb you.
But overall, these are 31 fantastic, spooky, scary horror movies, a list that should have something new and interesting for every single horror fan. Coming in at number 1, we have a Spanish film called El Profugo, or in English, The Intruder. The movie follows Ines, who works as a dubbing actress and sings in a choir. While on an idyllic trip, she suffers a traumatic episode that she can't recover from. She has trouble sleeping and experiences very vivid nightmares as strange sounds begin to emerge from inside her. Awake, Ines suddenly feels surrounded by people that seem to come from her dreams. I watched this premiere at the Berlinale back in 2020 and I really enjoyed it. It was a great original concept and definitely worth checking out. I guarantee that you have not heard of this movie. And if you want to branch out into some different kinds of horror, this one is definitely for you. Coming in at number 2, we have A Ghost Story. Recently deceased, a white-sheeted ghost returns to his suburban home to console his bereft wife, only to find that in his spectral state, he has become unstuck in time, forced to watch passively as the life he knew and the woman he loves slowly slip away. While it probably gets a bit more existential and philosophical rather than traditionally spooky, the themes of death and grief that this movie explores are scary in themselves. And I guarantee you it's the best use of a traditional person under the sheet style ghost in a movie that you'll ever see. It might have you crying by the end though. Coming in at number 3, we have The Invisible Man. When Cecilia's abusive ex takes his own life and leaves her his fortune, she suspects his death was a hoax. As a series of coincidences turn lethal, Cecilia works to prove that she's being hunted by someone nobody can see. This one's really good fun. Some awesome practical effects and VFX combinations in here, and it's made by Lee Wannell, the same Aussie legend who directed Upgrade in 2018, which is a fan favorite. And a fun fact for you, he actually co-created the Saw and Insidious franchises with James Wan. Coming in at number 4, we have Cargo. After being infected in the wake of a violent pandemic and with only 48 hours to live, a father struggles to find a new home for his baby daughter. I guarantee that this is a zombie film that you haven't heard of, even though it stars Martin Freeman and it's set in Australia. Such an awesome concept that I absolutely love as an Australian. The outback here makes for an especially unique, scary atmosphere in a zombie apocalypse. One of the transformation scenes in this is so sad and so brutal, well worth your time. Coming in at number 5, we have Prey. When danger threatens her camp, the fierce and highly skilled Comanche warrior Naru sets out to protect her people. But the prey she stalks turns out to be a highly evolved alien predator with a technically advanced arsenal. I love that synopsis. This is actually the only Predator movie that I've seen out of the whole franchise, and while perhaps it has a lot of elements of a thriller, I think it definitely gets scary enough that it also falls into the horror category as well. The whole idea of an unknown creature hunting you down back in the 1700s and a Comanche warrior having to try to survive and eventually try and kill the creature is just a great concept, and it's executed here to near perfection. At number 6, we have Us. A husband and wife take their kids to their beach house expecting to unplug and unwind with friends. But as night descends, their serenity turns to tension and chaos when some shocking visitors arrive uninvited. Guys, you simply cannot talk about horror movies and not mention this film's director, Jordan Peele. The man is a mastermind and consistently comes up with twisted ideas turned into the highest quality horror films that you could imagine. While Us is probably my least favorite Peele film, it's still good enough to be in this list, and that is saying something. What would you do if you looked outside your window right now to see a scary clone of you staring back up at you from the street? For number 7, we have Late Night with the Devil. A live broadcast of a late night talk show in 1977 goes horribly wrong, unleashing evil into the nation's living rooms. This one's another Australian film, so it's even closer to my heart, but I love the premise of the whole movie playing out like you're watching an old talk show on VHS. It was such a fun and unique feeling to watch this in a cinema. Also, I really don't think this movie gets enough credit for how brilliant the brutal practical effects are at the end. Anyway, this will play perfectly at home in your lounge room. Just don't mess around with any of that demonic stuff or bad things could happen, guys. At number 8, we have Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. In an isolated family mansion, a group of rich 20-somethings decide to play Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. Things take a turn for the worse when real bodies start turning up, setting off a paranoid and dangerous chain of events. Now, this does have some comedic elements, but then it turns into a horrifying and violent murder whodunit kind of film. Someone's out there murdering these young TikTok Zoomers. It took a while to grow on me, but I love this film by the end. It also has some brutal moments that have really stuck with me ever since. For number 9, we have Coraline. Do I need to speak any more about this classic? Yes, maybe this is a horror film more directed towards kids, but it's a disturbing one for them nonetheless, and the craftsmanship behind the making of this film is amazing. I speak a bit more about the themes in this movie in the video linked in the card above if you're interested. For number 10, we have Relic. When elderly mother Edna inexplicably vanishes, her daughter rushes to the family's decaying home, finding clues of her increasing dementia scattered around the house in her absence. This is another Australian banger film, guys. I gotta say, we do horror movies pretty well down here in my opinion. This has some really fun haunted house style horror, but at its core, it's a heartfelt film about looking after our older loved ones and the devastating effects of Alzheimer's and dementia. Worth your time watching for sure. At number 11, we have Suspiria. Maybe some will say that it's a crime not to have the original on here, which I maybe haven't seen yet. Another hot take from me is that this is actually the only Luca Guadagnino film that I've actually watched and enjoyed. I know that's a hot take. I remember watching this being so shocked at the intense and at times crazy gore and violence in this. It's a very cool descent into evil and madness, and a must watch for horror fans in my books. The synopsis is too long on Letterboxd, but basically it follows a dancer moving to a dance school in Berlin, and she gets involved in some satanic witchcraft, as you do. At number 12, we have Black Mirror Crocodile. A woman interviews various people using a device that allows her to access their memories. Oh man, I genuinely still have nightmares from this. The depiction of murder, violence, and a look into a killer's mind just felt all too real for me, and I honestly feel sick thinking about it, which is exactly why it's on this list. I know it's a Black Mirror episode, but come on guys, they're pretty much all short films, and this well and truly belongs in the horror category for me. For number 13, the permanent psychological damage that I've received from watching these films continues with Possessor. An elite corporate assassin uses brain implant technology to take control of other people's bodies to terminate high-profile targets. As she sinks deeper into her latest assignment, Voss becomes trapped inside a mind that threatens to obliterate her. So yeah, this is another movie that stayed in my head far beyond its welcome. So violent and so brutal, but it's also so creative. It's a perfect double feature from Crocodile, which I spoke about before, because it also stars Andrea Riseborough. She's just an expert at causing me trauma and nightmares for years, I guess. And also, Sean Bean is in this, the big man himself. For number 14, we have Annihilation. A biologist signs up for a dangerous, secret expedition into a mysterious zone where the laws of nature don't apply. While it falls into a fair bit of science fiction, I think this movie definitely also belongs under one of my favorite categories of horror, which is cosmic horror. There's a whole uneasy, unexplained, disturbing feeling throughout this entire movie with some messed up visuals to go along with it. Natalie Portman puts in another great performance as well. At number 15, we have a truly disturbing Japanese film called Cure, with some really interesting and scary undercurrents of the dark sides of human nature. A detective starts spiraling out of control when a wave of gruesome murders with seemingly bizarre circumstances are sweeping through Tokyo. This one's regarded as a masterpiece by some, definitely worth your time and great if you're looking to broaden your horror film horizons. At number 16, we have another Australian banger which you might have heard of before, called Talk to Me, when a group of friends discover how to conjure spirits using an embalmed hand. They become hooked on a new thrill until one of them goes too far and unleashes terrifying supernatural forces. You can look deeper into this movie as well and see it as a powerful exploration of drug addiction and peer pressure. I love the whole energy and vibe. I won't spoil it, but man, I love that ending so much. At number 17, we have Shaun of the Dead, another absolute all-time classic and part of the goated Cornetto trilogy with Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. Shaun lives a supremely uneventful life which revolves around his girlfriend, his mother, and above all, his local pub. This gentle routine is threatened when the dead return to life and make strenuous attempts to snack on ordinary Londoners. This is a lot of laughs, but also has some brutal zombies eating and pulling people apart in there as well, for good measure. Edgar Wright makes every movie so visually engaging, so as well as camera work, the whole flow of this is so fun to watch. At number 18, we have Barbarian, another one I've talked about in a previous video, which you can watch if you click on the card above, but overall, this is just the perfect combo of horror / thriller with a sprinkle of comedy thrown in there to perfection. The plot goes in completely crazy, unexpected directions that you won't see coming. At number 19, we have Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. This is a very disturbing puppet short exploring the concept of creativity. It was a huge hit on the internet when it came out back in 2011, and it spawned a whole series which you can watch here on YouTube, and then a TV series as well. There's just something so sinister and creepy about it, but at the same time, it all looks like it could be from an episode of Sesame Street. At number 20, we have Salad Fingers. Salad Fingers is a lonely green man who lives in the middle of nowhere. Now, I know this and Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared are shorts, but for me, they definitely deserve a spot on this list for just how creepy they are. Salad Fingers is another one from YouTube that you've probably heard before, but man, this series takes you on such a twisted, wild ride. It's so worth your time. It goes into some cosmic horror territories as well, which I love. At number 21, we have Hereditary. Following the death of the Lee family matriarch, Annie and her children discover disturbing secrets about their heritage. Ari Aster, ladies and gentlemen, another all-time horror director who arguably has made a name for himself with just 2 movies. Look, I'm not a fan of Beau is Afraid, but he's at his full strength here in Hereditary. Everyone talks about this for a reason, and it was one of the first horror movies I watched when I realized, wait a second, horror movies can actually be incredibly good films. Stupid me used to think they were all just campy and silly. How wrong I was. At number 22, we got Get Out. Chris and his girlfriend Rose go upstate to visit her parents for the weekend. As the weekend progresses, a series of increasingly disturbing discoveries leads Chris to a truth that he never could have imagined. Jordan Peele again with another banger, another near perfect movie. This functions as both a thrilling horror movie but also a terrifying and nuanced demonstration of racism and how insidious that it can be. For number 23, we have 10 Cloverfield Lane. After a catastrophic car crash, a young woman wakes up in a survivalist's underground bunker where he claims to have saved her from an apocalyptic attack that has left the outside world uninhabitable. It's been ages since I've watched this, but I remember just enjoying the wild ride from start to finish. It definitely has elements of horror as well, and it's just made to perfection and adds a great spin on the whole kidnapped and imprisoned trope. At number 24, we have The Witch, or the Vitch, as I like to say, because that's how the poster writes it. In 1630, a farmer relocates his family to a remote plot of land on the edge of a forest where strange, unsettling things happen. With suspicion and paranoia mounting, each family member's faith, loyalty, and love are tested in shocking ways. Director Robert Eggers. This guy is a genius. The Witch was one of his earlier works, and as Eggers does in every movie, it's so faithful to the time period that it's set in. It's just a joy to immerse yourself in that scary world. Black Phillip, the evil goat, is a highlight, and make sure you stay away from that evil bloke. At number 25, we have Unen Andalo. Unen Andalo is a European avant-garde surrealist film, a collaboration between director Luis Buñuel and Salvador Dali. This is technically classed as a horror, and there's one particular moment in this that traumatized me as a 9-year-old when I went to visit a Salvador Dali exhibition and this was playing. It also has even creepier vibes, being such an old film made in 1929, and there's a really disturbing story if you Google online that the film may actually be cursed in real life. For number 26, we have The Thing. In the winter of 1982, a 12-man research team at a remote Antarctic research station discovers an alien buried in the snow for over 100,000 years. Soon unfrozen, the form-changing creature wreaks havoc, creates terror, and becomes one of them. This movie has some of the most messed up and disturbing practical effects that you'll ever see in a movie. The film uses these practical effects masterfully, creating a truly memorable and scary cosmic horror-esque atmosphere. And for the kids watching, this is basically Among Us, the movie. At number 27, we have Wreck. A television reporter and a cameraman follow emergency workers into a dark apartment building and are quickly locked inside with something terrifying. I remember thinking that found footage movies couldn't be good, and I was completely wrong. This is genuinely terrifying and works so well with the concept of watching old tapes, this time from a news reporter, a little bit like Late Night with the Devil. Another great Spanish language horror film. At number 28, we have Donnie Darko. After narrowly escaping a bizarre accident, a troubled teenager is plagued by visions of a large bunny rabbit that manipulates him to commit a series of crimes. Look, some people might object to me putting this in the horror category, but come on guys, the ending of this movie is literally set at Halloween, so this definitely belongs in a list of scary movies to watch in the lead up to the end of October. Some really trippy moments, a great soundtrack, and a really nuanced look at schizophrenia as a mental health disorder. At number 29, we have Nope. Residents in a lonely gulch of inland California bear witness to an uncanny, chilling discovery. Jordan Peele. Again, guys, he's one of the best directors to ever make horror films, and it is genuinely criminal that this film was so snubbed at the Academy Awards that year. I've never felt such a sense of anxiety and claustrophobia in certain moments that this viewing experience gave me. Such a brilliant and unique take on aliens and UFOs as well. This one's not as well regarded as his other works, but I would argue that it's Jordan Peele's best. At number 30, we have Midsummer. Several friends travel to Sweden to study as anthropologists at a summer festival that is held every 90 years in the remote hometown of one of them. This is an Ari Aster masterclass. The experience watching this in a theater was truly scarring stuff. That cliff scene is one of the most brutal and disgusting and scary things that I've ever seen. I hate it. But this this movie is good. Some little great pockets of humor as well. It's so creative, it's so trippy. I could imagine this happening so easily to someone traveling Europe, and it has scared me from going to Sweden. But in all seriousness, I love how this works as a metaphor for breaking up and the hard decisions that you have to make to end a relationship. This is a 5-star banger film. And at the prestigious number 31, up there with the spookiest of all time, we have The Haunted Mask. A teenage girl, Carly Beth, wishes for a scarier mask to wear on Halloween and finds one at an old store. What she doesn't realize is that the mask itself is evil and has the power to take control of the wearer. Okay guys, maybe I'm taking the mickey a little bit with this one, but I wanted to end on a classic Halloween themed movie that I have strong memories of from my childhood. And yes, it's technically a TV episode, but it's on Letterboxd and it's a standalone story. I remember it so clearly because it was one of the only Goosebumps series episodes that I had access to, because I think we had the VHS or they had it at my local library or something like that. It's a great one to chuck on around Halloween to get you in the mood and also give you some sweet 90s nostalgia. So guys, that was 31 scary movies to watch in the 31 days of October. Please let me know in the comments if you like these longer movie recommendation list videos, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay spooky.